I just want to thank y'all for attending today's presentation. I know it just came out of the hotel lobby. People are lined up trying to get out of town. So when you had other choices, either to go to another presentation or to come in here and hear Coach Davis, we, especially all of us at Samford University, we appreciate it. Today, Coach Davis will be speaking on integrating nutrition into sports performance. Coach Davis is our Director of Sports Performance. He oversees 2 full-time strength coaches, a graduate assistant, and assorted interns. What he's going to be speaking on is how we brought on a sports dietitian about this time last year, Coach, and what she did was come in and totally, well, not revamp, started from scratch our sports nutrition program. And what that's done is basically provide better nutritional support, better eating habits, working one-on-one with our chef, Chris Vizina, who is a nationally recognized cook and chef, in preparing better meals and healthy choices for our athletes, okay? Because looking back over our sports history in strength and conditioning at Samford, we came to the conclusion that a 45-pound plate at Samford University weighs 45 pounds in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Auburn, Alabama, Austin, Texas, and Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and what was missing. What Coach Davis was able to do was bring on a sports nutritionist who came in and started making the healthy choices and giving direction not only to our coaches and to our athletes. And the biggest thing, eating on the road, okay? Coach Davis came to us. He got his bachelor's degree in exercise science at Rowan University and his master's degree in higher education at the University of West Florida, and he came from us from the University of Alabama. Now, in your coaching career, and I've been doing this for 24 years, you're blessed with several opportunities. You may only get 3 or 4 in your entire lifetime. Yesterday, I was able to present and introduce Ken Manny, who, let's face it, in our profession, he's one of the pillars of our foundation that it rests on. And when we speak about standing on the shoulders of giants, let me go and tell you something. He's one of the giants. I've been blessed now with the opportunity to not only present and introduce the face of our profession, but the future of our profession. So without further ado, Coach Davis. Hey, Dave, by the way, I'm not kidding. That was a great choice on your music, okay? Great choice.
Thanks, Coach. Real quick, the first thing I want to do, I just want to thank Coach Stiggins and Miss Becky Stiggins for giving me the opportunity to come here, and then I'm going to have my staff stand up real quick and just recognize them, because you guys are going to get a common theme in this thing about relationships. So Coach Rowland's our head baseball strength coach over here. You guys just saw him. Coach Ferris is down here in the middle. He's our associate director of strength and conditioning. You got Coach Clay right here, who is our assistant strength coach, works with softball and volleyball. We've got Brett Ivey, who's our full-time intern that's with us right now, that kind of cleans up the duties for us. So my goal today, guys, is you guys have been bombarded with a lot of nutrition stuff. So really what we're going to do is we're just going to give you the how. So if you're a smaller program, or even if you're a bigger program and this is something you don't have, we're just going to give you the how we've been able to do it. And we're going to give you some ideas that hopefully you guys can bring back and help you with your program. At the end of it, on the last couple slides, I'm going to go through them, but if you guys have questions, I won't wait till the end. If you got questions going through those, feel free to ask them then. So the first person I'm going to talk about here, this is our head football coach, Pat Sullivan. I came to Samford, like Coach said, from the University of Alabama, July of 2012. And I remember my first conversation with Coach, I was sitting down with him and he was telling me about his battle that he beat with cancer. And when I came up to meet with him, he called me, he said, hey, don't bring any, I don't want any booklets, don't get dressed up, just come up here, let's just sit down, let's just have lunch. And I'll never forget the conversation that we had that day. I've had the opportunity to work for some great coaches. You know, Charlie Strong at Louisville, Nick Saban at Alabama, Pat Sullivan at Samford, but this guy is forever has influenced me, and I'm forever grateful to him for the opportunity that he's given me and given my staff. But basically, to sum it up, the conversation we had is he was saying about 10 years ago he was diagnosed with cancer, went through the battle, and long story short, he gets into the hospital, and he's there, and the doc comes in and tells him, you know, first he's like, you got a 20% chance to live. Then it gets to the point a couple weeks later where they call his family in, and they tell his family, they tell his wife, get the kids, get everybody in, it's time for you guys to say goodbye. And then he says, when his family came in there and he's looking at his wife, he's looking at his grandkids, he said, I just laid in the bed and I just said, you know what, I'm not quite ready to die yet. And obviously he's still rolling. I mean, the guy beat it. So that whole situation gives him, gives us, gives our staff, gives our athletes, it gives us a totally different outlook on life and on our job and on our profession. So after he had that conversation, he came in, he said, look, I want to bring you in here, but you got this vision, and I want you to not take no for an answer. If this is what you want to do, and you're passionate about it and you're committed about it, we'll get it done together. But just don't take no for an answer. So when you're looking at integrating different pieces into your program, obviously that's something that is a tremendous help. But our program at Sanford, we go under this sports performance model. I'm like, a lot of my mentors are old school guys and they always talk about strength and conditioning. I wasn't a real big proponent of that whole sports performance thing. I said, I'm just a strength coach, but obviously getting in it a little longer, being in the field a little bit longer, growing up and developing, you understand all the things that fall under sports performance. So coming to Sanford, taking over the program, a lot of people say, well, you guys just run the same program, or you're going to run the same program you guys did at Alabama. And I always laugh at that. My staff always laughs at that because when you come in, I'm sure you guys have seen that on 60 Minutes and all that deal they have. We don't have a 37,000 square foot weight room. We don't have 12 strength coaches or however many's down there. We don't have the big budget. That's not us. So when you have this vision, you really have to figure out how you're going to carry this vision out and try to take some of that blueprint and incorporate it into the program that's just totally different. It's a much smaller deal. So under our sports performance model, just like a lot of you guys, we've got sports medicine, strength and conditioning, performance nutrition. That note, mental conditioning, is something we're also working on, and that consists of our entire extended healthcare network. So when you're talking about physical therapy, when you're talking about massage therapy, we kind of have all that under that mental conditioning component for us. And at the end of the day, my intern taught me how to do this cool little donut here on Excel. But at the end of the day, that's our sports performance model, integrating those 4 areas into one. All right, and our whole thing, like I said, Coach talks about the vision, be committed to the vision of what you're going to do. And our biggest thing is that success is built on relationships. So we've got, I think, one of the best athletic training and sports medicine staffs in the country. As every other coach has said, I think I have one of the best strength and conditioning staffs in the country. I think our performance nutrition program is second to none. If you don't think that, then you probably shouldn't be running a program. But, I think our guys do a great job with this. So understanding that performance model first, what we do is we sit down as a staff and we talk about what everybody's jobs are. I'm not talking about the unwritten stuff. I'm talking about the simple, basic human resource bullet points of what your job is. That's the first thing we go over. And if you look at our sports medicine team, this is what they do. Their number one thing is they want to provide the highest quality and standard of care available for all of our athletes. That's what they do. That's their number one job. They're going to exhaust all resources in trying to do that. All right? They're going to recognize and refer student athlete to appropriate medical care. That's that extended healthcare network. So if you got someone that needs surgery, or if they need to go see the sports psych, or any kind of issues, they're going to make sure that they direct the athlete in the right way. Collaborate with all aspects of the sports performance staff. That's the most important bullet point for them. All right? They believe, our athletic trainers talk about how important it is to have a great relationship with us and with performance nutrition. And you'll see why in a little bit, all right? And then that last bullet, you guys will notice, when we talk about strength and conditioning, we talk about sports medicine and performance nutrition, that last bullet's your gray area. That's your outside of HR stuff. So it says commitment to the persistent assessment of our sports performance program to ensure the highest quality of sports medicine care. Only thing you're going to have to change for the other ones is then it becomes strength and conditioning, or then it becomes nutrition, all right? And then you look at us as a strength coach, we get with my staff, we talk about, at the end of the day, what are the HR bullet points that we got hired here to do? And it's in a nutshell, it's really no different, whatever sport you're working with, wherever you are, increase overall physical performance, increase level of dynamic power, strength, increase flexibility, enhance the ability to change direction. You can read all this stuff on our website, but at the end of the day, that's why we got hired. That's the HR reasons we were brought to Sanford, the job that we were brought there to do. And then that last bullet point, that gray area again, commitment to the athletes, the assessment of our program. And then the nutrition part. Number one priority for them, educating athletes on how to improve overall nutrition habits, all right? Trying to develop and implement nutrition practices to complement with the NCAA. You got to be compliant in whatever you do. Enhance the overall athletic performance by providing the best fueling options, all right? So last one up there, development of pre- and post-game menus and the counseling part for the student athletes. And then that last bullet point again, that's that gray area again. So now once we've gotten that up for every area, then we sit down and we talk about our gray area. Every gray area has got to overlap with the other area. So strength and conditioning's got to overlap with athletic training. Nutrition's got to overlap with strength and conditioning and athletic training, vice versa. The reason is we got to speak the same language. All right, when you're talking about adding a nutrition position, I was asked the question, is it as important to you as coaching the power clean? That's part of our big three in our program. We're going to power clean, we're going to back squat, we're going to do some sort of upper body push, I should say big four. We're going to train posterior. So they say, hey, you got a big four. Is nutrition as important as that big four? And for us, it was simple. With our staff, the answer was yes. Quite frankly, I said, I don't know if I can run the program that I want to run with our football program if we don't have those recovery options for our guys. The athletic training staff agreed. My staff agreed. Then we start talking about, okay, how do we get this done? All right, and this is probably where it's going to go in to the most important parts for you guys. All right, but like I said in the beginning, remember that success is built on relationships. You got to have great relationships with those people. So now we start identifying the areas and challenges in the nutrition program. We go forward with this. What are we going to face if we try to get this thing done? All right, number one is the buy-in. That's not from the athletes. I'm going to tell you guys something. Our nutritionist is the most liked person in our building because she feeds the guys. Guys love her, treat her great. That's from administration, the buy-in from administration. You start spending money on supplements, on fruit, on trail mix, on beef jerky, on all that stuff, they need to have the buy-in to know that that's important, all right? Then from our staff, sports medicine, strength and conditioning, we've got to be able to buy into the importance of that nutrition. We've got to speak the same language when we're talking about this is something we need, we want to be able to add to our program. All right, now the sport coaches, they've got to see nutrition as an equal component in strength and conditioning and sports medicine. So I'll give you a great example of one of our coaches and how that worked. Our baseball team at Sanford's very successful. Our baseball coach is a great guy. Casey Dunn does an awesome job with the guys. But when you got a sport that's already having success, and then you come in and you say, hey, Coach Dunn, we need to do this. We want to get you on board to get a nutritionist. And then you start giving them numbers. He says, well, I don't really think we need that for our guys. We're already pretty good. So then the question becomes, well, you win the conference, or guys get drafted, you want to draft more guys. You want to go further than just winning the conference. Now all of a sudden he's thinking, well, maybe that's a good question. I do want to do that. Maybe this will help us. So you got to get the sport coaches to be able to buy into that. The thing I always tell my staff is recruiting sells. Honestly, at the end of the day, that's how we were able to add a dietitian to our program. We treated it like recruiting. You guys all know how your coaches are when you got these athletes that come in. 17-year-old kids, females, males, whatever it is, football, basketball, volleyball. You guys see how it is. If a coach wants a player, it's pretty unbelievable what they'll do for that athlete coming out of high school. And then you deal with, love what Coach Marati said the other day, you deal with all the entitlement stuff when they get there. We'll fix that through work. But we treated it the same way when it came to trying to get this position. So we went out to the coaches and we were just trying to sell it just like recruiting to the coaches. Some of the other challenges up there, finding help. All right, we're fortunate. You look at your program, when you talk about a dietitian, it's tough. It's hard enough to hire one dietitian full time. And then you talk about building a staff. That's the stage we're at now, is we're trying to build a staff with our dietetics program. But we're fortunate at Sanford because we've got an undergrad in dietetics. So we've got 25 volunteer students that work with all of our sports under the dietitian at Sanford. And now they just added a master's degree in it as well that starts next year, which is how, and I'll get to that later, but that's how we're going to expand the staff because they've already offered to kind of help us out with bringing in a GA or an assistant to the director. All right, so we're fortunate in that. depending on where you're at, I can't tell you exactly where to go. If you don't have a dietetics program, it's going to make it tough to be able to find help. You're going to have to try to get some of that stuff off to the strength staff and your volunteer interns that come in and help out. But for us, the number one place that we get our help from is our undergrad program right now with our students. But we still have, student assistants outside of the dietetics program. We've got some volunteers. We've been able to get some people from our campus dining to be able to help out with it. All right, and then obviously we use our strength and conditioning interns as well to be able to help out with the nutrition side of things. But on the bottom there, delegation help sell. This is a big tool for us because when everybody's involved in it, when the athletic trainers are helping out and the strength coaches are helping out, the interns are helping out, that makes it look important to administration. That makes it look important to boosters. All right? So you're talking about recovery stuff. All right, I'm not going to go into detail on this. You guys have heard a lot of this since you've been here, but this is the nutrition specifics of why it was important to us. This is kind of how we sold it to administration, but how important recovery was. 30 minutes after workout, we got to get some glycogen stores back into these guys. We got to get them recovered after the training bout that they just went through. Our recovery options on the side over there, we've got them all listed up there, some of them listed, but chocolate milk, strawberry milk, that stuff's very inexpensive for you. Very inexpensive. You go to your caf, it's like 13 cents a half pint. All right, made to order shakes, our staff takes care of that. The student staff and the dietitians do the muscle milk stuff after the workouts. We've got Rock and Refuel. They obviously use the muscle milk products, the different bars, nuts, trail mix. Sometimes I look and I'm like, I don't really understand where we get all this stuff from, but the options are just kind of insane for our guys. All right, and like you see, after our guys get done at practice, our football team, when they get done, the staff has got recovery stations set up for them. So we intentionally put different recovery stations coming in off the field to make the players run into them. So they can't get in the field house, they can't get in the locker room without running into a station. One of the stations might have those made-to-order shakes, those different flavor muscle milk shakes. They might have fruit skewers, they might have ice pops, whatever it is. But presentation of this is important. Because when the administrators and the boosters come out there and they're looking at what you're doing, the presentation looks good. They want to be able to give you money. They want to be able to help you with that. All right, now the important stuff. This is stuff that's going to help you guys out. All right, this is the stuff that we're going to talk about as far as how we built it, the actual how that we did it in our program. All right, so our blueprint and how we went about this. The first thing we do is we get together as a staff. We put together a simple one-year plan. All right, my administration, you've got to understand your administration. My AD can't stand long documents. I was just telling the staff outside, we were just joking because every time he'll text us while we're here, he does all shorthand. Because he's like, I got so many other things that I'm dealing with. Whatever you send me, just make sure it's simple to read. So we put together an Excel document of a one-year plan and we send to the AD. We send it to administration. All right. We talk about the things that we want to be able to get done in that one-year plan. So for us at Sanford, we were able to bring in the dietitian. The main thing that in the first year, our plan wasn't to educate the guys. The main thing we wanted to do is provide options for the athletes. All right, so the dietitian comes in, the athletes are coming in to train, and all of a sudden, we've got a new nutrition bar, a new fueling station in one of the weight rooms. They get fired up about that. All of a sudden, we get a brand new fueling machine, a refuel hydration machine in there for them. They get fired up about that. Then they come in, we've got fruit out on the bar for them. They get fired up about that. All that was part of the one-year plan of slowly providing different options for the athletes. All right? Hands-on approach with the athletes. So the dietitian that came in for us, she was very big on saying, listen, we need to be, when they're in the caf and when they're building their plates, we've got to be in there to show them how to do it. One of the examples we have, you heard Coach Rowland talk about, we're also fortunate, we don't have a typical training table. But we don't just have campus dining either. It's a little bit of a different situation. We've got a chef that's in charge of this. He's been all over the world. He's worked at the Ritz-Carlton. He's amazing. He's our president of the Campus Dining Inc. that we use. Some of you guys I think may use Sodexo. We had that at Alabama, but it's a private company that we have. In our building, we've got a dining banquet hall upstairs in our building. So what we're able to do, we're able to feed our players out of our building kind of whenever we want. But it's not a typical training table that's upstairs. So with the hands-on approach, one of the things that our dietitian did is got with the chef, we recreated the menus in campus dining. When the players would go in, they would build a plate, and she would score it, kind of like a red light, green light, yellow light system. She would score it based on the amount of colors, the amount of proteins they had on the plate. This I thought was unique because they would send a picture to her or one of the assistants. She would upload it into an Excel file and score it for the guys. So they'd get a score on how they were eating. All that was the hands-on approach about providing options for them. And then what we talked about was really building a foundation for the position. So that goes into the 3-year plan. After the first year, if we give this to you, how are you going to grow it? Then we put the 3-year plan and said, this is when we're going to start coming in, really educating the players on what they're doing, educating them on, why we're providing the options we're providing for them, basically teaching them why we're doing the things that we're doing. And then sustainability. So they want to know, how are you going to keep this program going? If we have this, we get this, how are you guys going to keep this thing going? All right? So this is our blueprint. And this is how we did it. We educated and recruited all of our sport coaches. So we start talking mainly with our money sports, football, basketball. We start talking with the coaches on how the nutrition is going to help them. We got buy-in from them pretty quick. All right, that we were fortunate for that. We got buy-in from them pretty quick. So then when we start meeting with administration, they want to know how we're going to do it. So once you get to the how-to point, they've kind of accepted that this is something that would be good. So now let's talk about how we're going to do it. All right. Once we recruited the guys, we talked about fatigue-related injuries, eating disorders, overall performance. On the back end, you'll see me go back to fatigue injuries. It's a money thing. So our athletic training staff printed up this nice report on all the injuries that we've had in the last 4 years, and he went and presented it with us to the AD and said, listen, if we can reduce fatigue-related injuries, we can reduce the amount that we're spending in surgeries and rehabs for these guys by X amount of dollars. That X amount of dollars was a lot larger than what it cost us to get the nutritionists and to fund the program. So that's what initially got their attention, because we started talking about the money aspect. All right. Then the sport coaches get on board because of recruiting. A lot of our coaches have been assistants at big-time places or high-level places. So when they come into Sanford, they want all the things that they had when they were at the bigger program. So they love it because it's a game changer for them recruiting to be able to say that we have it. So you get them on board. All right. Then administration talks about, can we integrate this at all with academics? We got a dietetics program, and we were able to successfully do that to kind of marry the two. All right. Biggest thing we did is we took our football coach, Coach Sullivan, and we took our athletic director. We gave them all the information and kind of put them in the driver's seat and let them run with it. And we were there as kind of a support when they needed, educating on if boosters came in, whatever it was. We would be there to make sure that we could handle that for them. Dave, this clicker's, this thing's killing me. We got it. That's all right. So now, everybody wants to know the money. How did you come up with the money? All right, once we put the plan in place, we had to get most of our coaches on board, and our AD he was very great working with. He was fortunate to make this decision. We got about 80% of our coaches on board to make this and say, yeah, let's go ahead, let's add the dietitian. So what he did is he deducted, it was just over 1% from all their total operating budgets. And he gave us this lump sum of money and said, here's the sum of money. Remember that benefits are 39% of whatever you hire. You hire somebody, let's bring them in. So we brought somebody in, got the dietitian there. Then what ends up happening is when that program was integrated with academics on campus, now academics wants to throw a little money at it, because if you have a dietetics program, you have an undergrad or you have a master's program, they need their hours, their externship hours, to be able to graduate and sit for the RD exam. So now academics says, well, we have somebody that can sign them off on those hours. We have an externship coordinator in the RD that's in athletics. So, hey, we can throw a little bit more money at it too, or we can help you with maybe funding another position, a GA or an assistant for it. All right, then we got food service involved. So campus dining says, well, you know what, we do things on campus, but we really need somebody to help us market our program. Remember, it's a private dining service. So we got the students involved. Campus dining was able to throw a little bit more money at it. And then the last part of it was counseling. So our counseling services on campus was saying, if we have somebody that's already here that's going to deal with the counseling needs of the athletes, that kind of takes about 25% off of our plate, because they're not coming over here to deal with us anymore. So if you have a registered dietitian that can talk to them and counsel them through some of the eating disorders, only the athletes, that takes off our plate. So we'll be able to help you a little bit with it too. So that's where the money came from for the position, and that's how we initially got it funded. All right? That last point there, be sure that part of your vision is shared with academics for future growth. When I talked to Chuck about doing this, we had our dietitian leave right before the convention. She took a job at the hospital. All right? It was a great move for her. Something that she wanted to do, and it was a great move for us. Turned out to be a blessing in the sky, because what ended up happening, everybody freaked out when she left, said, hey, we got to get this hired. So what we had to put together and send them, we got the 1 year, the 3 year, they wanted a 5-year plan. So what we ended up doing is academics was involved in the future growth of that, because since we're starting a new dietetics master's program, they actually funded a GA position for us as well. We can't hire that yet because we're still in the interview process of the new dietitian coming in. So now in 2 months, we went from having a dietitian, kind of an entry-level full-time, to being able to put a little bit more on that and adding a GA position with it because of the situation that happens when something opens up. So academics was great for us, and if you have the ability to do that on campus, academics is good, and when they ask for money, they're more likely to get it than we are, because they're a lot more important in what they're doing than we are in the eyes of your administration on campus. All right, some of our other blueprint right here. We talk about evaluating the current nutrition for the teams. So after we initially got the position with them, we had to look at how we were going to start getting our products. So what we did is I sat down with our football staff, our director of football ops. I had our associate director, he sat down with our director of basketball ops. We looked at our current spending and what we were giving the guys, what we were giving the athletes. So when you travel, they're spending money somewhere. So what we did is we said, we've got to find a way where we can save some money, and if we save them money, they agreed to give us that money in the budget, in our nutrition budget. So cheaper by volume. First thing we found, and I don't know how many people do this, but some of our sports go out, they just give the athletes money, and they go and they get whatever they want when they're on the road. Some of our teams were going to Sam's Club trying to get stuff when they traveled. So what we did is we gave them a plan where everybody can be consistent in what they're doing. So we got a Sam's right down the street. We became a member. We've got a 20% discount that they were able to give us at Sam's. We did all their shopping. And in doing that, we saved a good bit of money that we were able to put toward our supplement program. All right? Evaluating the current meal plan with the CAF. We're on a 19 meal plan. We weren't using all those. So the cafeteria was able to give us money back, even though it's a 19 meal plan that we had. We're only using 16 of it. They were able to give us 2 or 3 meals back in the finances to put back into our nutrition budget as well. All right, and then talking about knowing your boosters. We've got a guy at Sanford that just loves giving us money for some reason, so he continuously does it. And we're sitting at a dinner with him, and the guy looks over at one of my staff members and says, hey, how important is muscle milk? Great opportunity. Recruit him. And they did it. They recruit the guy. We end up getting a $10,000 check. He says, put that in the budget. That's to help you guys out with muscle milk. That's how we kind of started that. And then here we talk about the shotgun approach versus the target approach, or the sniper approach. My staff is phenomenal because I tell them all the time, if we're going to build it, I've got to be able to focus on this while you guys are handling all the other stuff. So Coach Rowland, Coach Ferris, they do a phenomenal job at taking care of other things that come up so we can build this area. I think it's important to have someone on your staff that can do that and kind of take some of that load off while you can focus on building that one area. And that's how we've been able to kind of focus on building that nutrition area right now. All right. This is the part where if you guys want to ask questions, feel free to ask questions on this. So with football, when we evaluated those funds, what we did is we looked at how we traveled. The first thing we noticed is that in the past, what we did at Sanford is we would leave Friday morning, go travel to where we were playing, and we would do a walkthrough on the campus of where we were playing at. So the one thing we changed is we said, well, if we did a walkthrough on campus and we took the extra meal on campus instead of getting that meal on the road because we're leaving 2, 3, or 4 hours earlier, that's going to be able to save us money. So we eat our meal before we leave campus. We do a walkthrough at home. We leave a little bit later. So our travel party, 110 people eating on campus instead of stopping on the road, all right? If you don't use that meal plan that day, they're not going to give you that one back on your travel day. So what we were able to do, 110 people, $8 a head, $880. We had 8 road games our second year there. So we were able to go with our DFO and take $7,000 out of just changing the way we travel to put back into our nutrition budget. Our head coach agreed and said, if you can save us money and not change the quality of what we're doing, you can have it. So we looked at that and said, all right, we're going to do a walkthrough at home. $7,000 gave to the nutritionist. The second thing we did, when we travel with football, we've got a travel party. Our administrators, our boosters, all those people will travel with us. There's normally about 40 people that'll go on the road with us. All right, we're staying in hotels like this, and we're eating. You got to feed those 40 people. So if you leave on a Friday night, they're going to eat dinner with you. They're going to eat breakfast the next day with you. They're going to eat lunch with you, or pregame meal. If it's a night game, they're going to have another meal in there. So you're looking at 3 to 4 meals for 40 people. When you guys start looking at how much you're paying if you're eating at a hotel, it's expensive, all right? So the one thing we came up with is saying, hey, let's take the staff and administrators out of eating with the team. Let's give them a meal voucher for $20 where they can go down to the restaurant in the hotel or somewhere in town and they can use their meal voucher to eat. It was normally costing us about $20 a meal for the people, or $40 a meal for the people to eat, all right? So the thing that helped us, everybody doesn't eat the same, so when we started giving them meal vouchers, some people would only use 2, some people would use 3, some would only use 1. If they didn't use it, the hotel didn't charge us for it. So what we were able to do there, we saved, on each of those travel party people, we saved $20 a head, which worked out to end up being $19,000 throughout the course of the season. All right, because if you do the math right there on the bottom, you're saving $20 a head on 40 people, that gives you $800. Remember, you got a minimum of 3 meals that you got to eat while you're on the road. So if they're eating 3, that's $2,400 a trip over 8 road games. If you're eating 4, that's even more. We played 3 night games on the road last year. So it worked out to be a little bit more money for us. Coach says that's great. That 19 grand, you guys can take it and put it back in the nutrition program, because it actually worked out to be better for the travel party. And then they weren't upset because we didn't tell them what time they had to eat. Once we gave them the meal vouchers, they can go eat anytime they want. Another thing we did is we looked at late night snacks. So if you're with football, our schedule in there is the guys will go in, when we get to the hotel, they're going to meet. Then they're going to come out of meetings at night, and they're going to have some type of snack that they do that's after dinner at the hotel. So normally we were doing like sandwiches, quesadillas and stuff like that through the hotel. Well, what we did is we looked at all the hotels that we were traveling to, and we said, did we meet the meal minimum for the group that's traveling? So when you look at how much you're spending at a hotel, they're going to give you a minimum that you've got to spend on meals when your team is there. If we hit the minimum, what we did is we ordered in late night snacks. All right, so if we got sandwiches from a hotel, they would charge us $18 to $20 a head. Now we decided we're going to get Panera Bread, or we're going to get Moe's, we're going to get Chick-fil-A, something like that, or McAllister's Deli, catered for the guys for their late night snack. When you do the catering, it works out to sometimes be $4 to $8 a head, $4 to $8 a person that you're going to feed. Then the guys are fired up because it's not hotel food. They come out of meetings and they're looking in there saying, man, this is great. We got Moe's in here, or we got Chick-fil-A in here, or we got McAllister's in here. It gets them away from some of the hotel stuff. So on average there, all right, we go $10 a head times 80 people, all right, over the course of 8 games, $640. It actually worked out for us to be a little bit more this year. It was about $1,000 and some change. So we took that money and we put back in the program. We took all this and put it right on the nutrition side. All right? So if you're at a small school like us, before you go ask for money, they want to see that you can handle the money they're giving you, or that you can be creative about how you're going to get some funding first. So what we did is the first year, we went to the AD and said, listen, we got about $27,000 and this is what we did with it. All right? This is what we did with it. It was very fortunate for us because our football team had their best season ever in the history of Sanford. So that worked out great, because now administration says, all right, we gave them they made $27,000. We can be able to put something else on top of that and make it that much better. All right, so now AD says, all right, we're going to give you extra money. What's important to you? All these areas up here, hydration. This goes back to the relationship with the athletic trainers. Athletic trainers have a contract with Powerade. We don't control that, they do. But they know the nutrition is important. So what they were able to convince our administrators to do is expand the Powerade contract. So now the nutritionist gets another, I think it was $12,000 or $13,000 they gave her last year on the Powerade products. They added that to it. And that's because the athletic trainer sold them on it. All right, we talked about recovery, healthy meal options, healthy snack options, pre-workout and post-workout. The athletic trainers really are the ones that sold this for us before we asked for that more money and before we got it, because remember, they got that injury report. They tie everything back to money. How much money we're spending in surgeries, how much money we're spending over at St. Vincent's Hospital. All right, so now, evaluating our program. We did something this year that was a little bit different, and in the beginning of the year, we kind of met as a performance staff, and we talked about how do we want to integrate everybody? How do we want to be able to integrate everybody as a staff? So our athletic trainers brought up the idea of the sports science stuff. A lot of this is going on. You hear it at bigger schools. That's just the name we gave it, but a lot of the places are running Catapult now, the GPS or the Polar. They said, well, we need some better ways to be able to measure recovery on our athletes so that we can get hard numbers and sell to administration. So one of the things we started doing this year is we started measuring just a power curve and a recovery index on our guys when they're working. All right? It's real simple. We don't have all the money. We use a jump mat for the guys. We're trying to really put a measurement on the power output every day the guys come into the weight room to see how their power is depleting, to see how they're recovering between workouts. We added a deal with hydration this year with measuring that. There's a little tool that we got with athletic training. It's called the refractometer. And they go in, the guys will come in, they'll pee in a cup, athletic training staff will dip the refractometer in it. It'll give it an exact pH measurement on the guy's hydration balance. We started charting all this for our players. All right, we started a player wellness profile. So every day, or 3 days a week, I think it is, the players come in, they fill out a wellness profile for us, just how they're doing, how they're feeling. Through that wellness profile, we found out one of our guys had a sleep disorder. He didn't tell us because he didn't think it was important, not because we don't have a good relationship with him, but he never told us because he just thought he wasn't sleeping. But one of the questions up there was asking about his sleep. Turns out the guy's only sleeping 2 hours a night. And he's coming in and he's training, he's going to practice, he's going to class. Well, through that wellness profile, we took that over to counseling services on campus. They gave us a $4,000 grant to get a sleep study done on the kid. Found out what the issue is. He's sleeping now. I don't know what the issue was because I didn't go that far to get involved, but he's sleeping now. So that little sheet, it's a 5-7 question sheet that we have the guys fill out. I mean, that earned us $4,000 and it helped this kid be able to sleep a little bit better. All right? But the main thing that does for us is it gives us an accountability measure to be able to maximize our resources. All right, the Powerade example I gave you earlier, that was because of our athletic training staff and being able to measure that stuff to take to administration and say, hey, if we hydrate the guys better, we have less fatigue-related injuries, we spend less money in surgeries at the end of the season. Preventable injuries versus injuries that we can help. Hydration was a big thing with that. All right, this is that sheet that the athletic training staff uses. This is one of the things that they use. I'm not very smart with the PowerPoint deal, so I couldn't figure out how to take a picture without putting the PDF file up there too, but that basically shows our injury rate from the last couple of years. And that's what they are selling to administration for us. And ultimately, that's what gives us money. That's what's able to get us money in our program. Administrators like when you can come in and say, hey, we spent this amount last year in surgeries, but of this percent of surgeries, here's how many of them were preventable, fatigue-related things that happen. So if we put a little bit more into this pot and we can do a little bit more with hydrating and recovery, we can not spend all that money that we're spending on sending the guys out to get different surgeries. And then they keep track of every single athlete that's had any kind of injury, and that's how we get the preventable versus the ones that we can't do anything about, like a contact issue. All right, but that's what they're showing to administration. So the athletic trainers really think that the nutrition is as important as we do. All right, so to sum it up, if you're going to do it, if you're looking at trying to add this position, the biggest thing with it is everybody's got to speak the same language. Everybody. You got to be on the same page. I go back to that question as a strength coach, is it as important to you as a power clean? It was to us. All right, our athletic training staff, they have done such a phenomenal job at being able to get us resources and funding, but without them, we couldn't do it because they're the ones that are showing the numbers and they're the ones that are meeting with administration for us. And the other thing is over-communicating. All right, we think success is built on relationships. We've got great relationships with our staff, but we over-communicate everything. We don't have typical staff meetings. There's only 5 of us on the strength side. There's 5 of us or 4 of us on the athletic training side. We work together every single day. So we don't have typical staff meetings. We have impromptu ones. We probably do that 2 or 3 times a week, but it keeps everybody on the same page. And ultimately, that's what makes it possible for us to do that. And now we're just looking forward to being able to build that. But some of the things for you guys at smaller schools, when you go in that we looked at, the first person that I met in trying to build this was our chef on campus. Our chef was the one that was giving me prices on things like chocolate milk and fruit. He's ordering $5,000 worth of bananas a week. So he's throwing us a case of bananas saying, hey, it's not a big deal because the students got to come and eat in the caf anyway. Student athletes, they got to come and eat in the caf anyway. So we'll give you guys some bananas, we'll throw some fruit at you. And then, like I said, the chocolate milk, it's $13. We spend $50 a week on chocolate milk for football, 13 cents. We spend $50 a week on chocolate milk for football. That's it. And that's only during the times where they're consuming it a lot, which is in the off season, in the summer. They don't drink as much of it when they're in season because they're getting so many other things. All right, but there's so much room, I think, of building this area for us and making it better for us where we can keep our athletes on the field or on the court. And there's ways to do it where you don't need the big budget that the bigger schools have to be able to get it done. Questions? Not one, so I covered everything. I appreciate you guys for letting us speak today. Like Coach Rowland said, we appreciate you for staying. I hope you're able to take 1 or 2 things from it. Hope you're able to learn something and build this into your program. Thank you.